Howdy. What you're looking at is a 20-gallon long aquarium that I've had for a few years that's just been sitting in my former fish room, kind of just waiting to be used for something. So recently I decided that did want to use it for something, so I came up with an idea and I escaped it before I recorded it, but here it is. Now, I kind of wanted to talk about this build a bit, even though I did not really record the whole process, because it really was an interesting build for me. It's a little something different than what I've tried before, and I think a lot of other people have tried, especially because what's going in here is going to be so small. The concept for this aquarium was a pico fish aquarium. Well, the aquarium's still nano. A lot of people don't put what I'm going to put in here in a tank this large. I ended up paying way too much for some small stones, which I put at the bottom of the aquarium to detail. It ended up being a little lighter color than what I was going for. I thought they would darken up a bit more, but what you gonna do? Now, this is a budget build. I did not want to spend too much. A lot of the materials in here are reused, except for these stones and the plants that I added. But yeah, don't pay this much for a tiny bag of stones. My mistake. I then added some smaller stones for detailing. This was just in a bucket of leftover gravel I had sitting downstairs, and I figured they'd go good in here to help complement the larger stones that I added. That ended up going pretty well. They ended up complementing each other quite nicely. Now, I want to use some of this time to talk about budgeting for this aquarium, as a tank like this would usually cost quite a bit of money, and I decided to go with a little bit different methods that I've used in the past. Like, for example, instead of buying my plants from a chain store, I decided to buy them from Petco, which is not something you do very often, but I basically use this tube plant and this tank plant, which was Ludwigia and Java fern. Now, I wouldn't really recommend doing this. I am fairly confident that I can heal these plants up a bit, but I trust my local Petco quite a bit. I've known the guy that works there for quite a while. He's pretty good with all this. So are the other workers. Petcos can generally be kind of hit or miss, and this one's definitely a hit for me, and I've known about it for quite a while. But all in all, with the materials that I bought for this tank, it only ended up costing me about $30 to set it all up. I'm sure you could probably do this full setup that I got here. If you budget it correctly, you could probably do it for around $100, $150 if you're buying everything from scratch. Now I will be putting in the plants. As I said, I went with Ludwigia and Java fern, which are both very beautiful plants that I haven't actually kept before. Usually I stick to Anubias, swords, all that, but these plants are quite beautiful. I'm not the most experienced plant keeper, but I'm pretty confident that I can work with these plants, and I had time to work with these plants. The filter and substrate and all the decorations in this tank were taken from other tanks that I've been tearing down, so they're all cycled, very freshly cycled, and the substrate has a lot of nutrients in it, which is what I was really banking on for the plants, because I think my plants always do better when you have an established substrate. Just as a extra measure though, I did put fertilizer, I think it was Flourish, and I also put root tabs in the tank as well. I just put 2 in there. And for the placement of the plants, I kind of wanted them to fill out the background a bit and provide places for the inhabitants and their babies to hide. Since this is going to be a breeding tank, a very active one, and I want the new baby fish to have places to hide. Now, as you see later on, I do get one more plant, but I'm hoping these plants will fill in a little more, and I'm depending on that over the next few months, which is actually, it works out pretty well because the main inhabitants I wanted to put in this tank I won't be able to get for another few months due to me living in a very cold area where they do not want to ship fish, specifically the type of fish that I want to put in here. So I'll probably make a separate type of video when I finally get those. But I want to get this out, and I do have inhabitants that I'm going to be putting in here by the end of this video, and with an update on how they've been doing. Now the next plant that I got in here was the Java fern, which came in the tube. And the reason I decided to go for one of these tube plants is because, one, I've never tried it before. Java ferns are very hardy plants, and also there's a much lower risk of parasites, and I have a friend who has actually had a lot of success with these tube plants. So I wanted to try it out. It's going to look like I skipped around some of the planting here. That's because I decided, for whatever reason, to plop my butt directly in front of the camera, which was not a good decision, but I did get the plants in, and the plants have actually been doing quite well. I was kind of surprised by that because I have not heard good things, but I've also heard very good things at the same time about some of these plants because they come at a pretty decent price. I got a pretty good amount of Ludwigia for only $5, which was really nice. It really helped fill out my tank. There's definitely some issues with the lighting that I have to fix, but oh well. But the plants are doing really well. They started pearling after a few days. There was a little bit of leaf die-off, as you can see, floating at the top of the tank, but they got over that pretty quick, and ever since they've been doing excellent. But here is a better view of the completed scape. I think it turned out pretty well. I'm pretty proud of it. I haven't really tried scaping a tank in a pretty long time, actually, so this was the first time I've done it, and I'm pretty proud. It's not like the best scape or anything. It's not going to win any awards, but it looks nice, and it was very cost effective. I got a lot of that stuff that was on the glass off. I find it a lot easier to get some of that stuff off when it's in the water already. I did get the effect I was going for, though, with having a lot of hiding places for the inhabitants, and as you'll see soon, it turned out quite well. Without further ado, here's the inhabitants I decided to put in this tank. These are blue velvet shrimp. They're a Neocardinia species. I really like this color a lot. I don't really go for the deeper colors or anything because usually I like inhabitants that are a little more natural, and I decided on these because they both remind me of the natural form of the cherry shrimp, and they will sell pretty well. They were pretty expensive, as shrimp are, but I'm pretty happy with them. They've been zooming all around the tank. There's only 6 of them right now, so I don't see too much of them, which is why I kind of had to whip out the camera a few times pretty quickly to get some of this footage, but they're doing pretty well. I haven't had any losses yet, and I'm hoping it stays that way. They've really been utilizing the hiding spaces, and I'm assuming that they will breed soon. I'm pretty sure they're breeding size. I'm not the best with shrimp, and usually I haven't had much success breeding them because I've kept them with other fish. And there will be fish in here eventually. I just can't order them right now, since they're a little bit of a harder species to find, especially where I am up north. But yeah, these shrimp are really beautiful. They've really been enjoying the tank, and I've been enjoying watching them, and I'm hoping with the few months that it's going to take to get the fish in here that they can establish a small colony. You can see also that I did add guppy grass to this tank, which I bought pretty cheap with the shrimp. It kind of just came with them pretty much, and I really like guppy grass. I've always had a lot of success with it. I wanted a place for some of the inhabitants to hide. I wasn't very happy with the placement, so you can see later on that I changed it up a bit, but anyways, that concludes this build. After doing this build, I was really determined to kind of make a video about it because it turned out better than I thought it would, and I just really ended up enjoying making it. So the next build I do, I'm definitely going to be recording a lot more of the process and hopefully making a little bit higher quality of a video. But this is what I got for this one. I really just wanted to share it, and I can't wait to add the next inhabitants in here and see a little colony put up. I will add also that I had added some ramshorn snails to this tank. I kind of forgot to mention it because, well, I never see them. There's only two in there, and eventually they're gonna probably explode in population, but I don't really mind if they don't. I just kind of like snails. I wanted to have some. And I was hoping they would reproduce so I could distribute some to some of my other tanks since I think they're pretty good cleaners. And yeah, that's going to be it. I hope you really like this build. I really enjoyed making it. I haven't made a video in a while. And it was pretty fun. I really like sharing this kind of thing. I really like talking about it, so I'm hoping that you all like hearing me talk about it. Have a good one. Bye.